My name's Marie, this is Brenda. Welcome to Caldwell Zoo's Black-footed Penguin exhibit. We have 9 penguins in here, 4 males and 5 females. And these guys all came to us from the Baltimore Zoo in Maryland. I'm sure by now you've realized that there's no snow or ice in this exhibit. That's because these guys are warm weather penguins. Out in the wild, penguins are found only in the southern hemisphere. So they're found off the coasts of South America, Africa, Antarctica, New Zealand, surrounding islands. This particular species is found off the southern coast of Africa. So they're still pretty close to the equator. They see nice warm weather. They don't see snow or ice, but they will swim in some colder waters. Now, contrary to popular belief, penguins as a whole are more of a warm weather bird. There are 17 different types of penguins, and of those, only 5 species live in snow and ice. So that means penguins are found in climates similar to this. It's pretty mild, you got trees and plants growing, not really cold. Out in the wild, penguins only eat in the water. As you may have noticed, these guys are pretty clumsy when they get up on land. They trip over each other fairly easily, slip off the rocks. However, here at Caldwell Zoo, we do try and hand feed as many of these guys as possible. That's because it gives us a nice close look at everybody's faces and bodies. We can make sure everybody looks nice and healthy and spot any potential problems a lot more quickly than if we just came in and threw a bunch of fish in the water. Hand feeding also makes it a lot easier to record what they eat. And that's what Brenda's doing. She's recording the number and type of fish that each of our penguins eat. As we record, we look for those that are eating less than normal and also those that are eating more than normal. Even though these guys are in captivity, they still have some of their basic instincts. One of those instincts is to look and act as healthy as possible, because out in the wild, if you're injured and you're limping around or you're swimming really slowly, you're going to be an easy target for a predator. So often for us, with any of our animals here at the zoo, the first sign that we may get that these guys don't feel good is when they don't eat as well as they normally do. So if we have a penguin that starts to eat a little worse than normal, then we just keep an extra eye on them and get them medical attention if necessary. Now, we do also look for penguins that start to eat more than normal, and I'm talking a lot more, sometimes up to twice as much as what they normally eat. And it has to do with penguins molting. All birds molt. It's their way of losing their old feathers and growing in new feathers. If you have a cat or dog at home, they shed, birds molt. Well, for penguins, their feathers act as an insulation against the cold water that they swim in. So when these guys molt, even to lose a few feathers at a time, it's like having a hole in a wetsuit. You're not going to stay dry and warm. So to get the molting process over with as quickly as possible, penguins will molt all at once. It's called a catastrophic molt. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks for this process. And during that time period, since they have no insulation, they can't go swimming, therefore they can't eat. So what these guys do is they'll get really, really fat by eating a whole lot of food, and then they live off that fat reserve while they're molting. Once all their feathers are in, they just hop right back in the water and continue hunting as normal. We currently do not have any penguins molting. It's very easy to tell when they're molting. They're very scraggly looking, mangy looking. But these guys molt about once a year just because it is such a stressful time period for them. Now, if Brenda's going to record who's eating what, she needs to be able to tell these guys apart. Penguins can tell each other apart both visually and vocally. Each penguin has a unique spot pattern on their chest, just like we have unique fingerprints. The only spot pattern I can tell apart is this girl right here. If she turns around for you, you get a good look at her belly. She's got the most spots out of any of these guys. Her name is Freckles. and very easy to tell apart. Now they also can recognize each other's vocalizations just like we would recognize a friend's voice on the phone. A nickname for the black-footed penguin is the jackass penguin because their vocalizations sound like a donkey braying. We do have exhibit microphones set up in here, and once we're done feeding them, we'll turn those back on for you. If you're lucky enough, you might get a chance to hear how they sound. Now, I certainly can't distinguish their calls from each other, and I still haven't learned everybody's spot pattern, so we've cheated a little bit, and you'll notice that each of our penguins has a color band on. That is our way of identifying the penguins. Now you'll notice I've got 2 with green on, 2 with orange on, I had 2 yellow, 2 blue. Well, if you look closely, you'll notice that these colors are on opposite wings. We have our males banded on the right wing and our females banded on the left wing. The matching sets of colors also represent pair bonds. Penguins are monogamous, which means that they will mate with the same partner year after year after year for their entire life. So when we got this group in, we let them pick their own partners. They also got to pick their own breeding territory. And basically, as long as the group dynamics don't change, these guys will remain paired up for their entire life here at Caldwell Zoo. We do have a breeding side set up. It's over on the left. And you'll notice that there are cubby holes over there. These guys don't lay an egg and prop it up on their feet like emperor and king penguins do. These guys are cavity nesters. So they will dig a hole or find a hole, line it with nesting material, lay a couple of eggs, and then both mom and dad will take turns sitting on the eggs and feeding the chicks. Now this breeding style makes them huge pests down in South Africa during the breeding season. And that's because they will pretty much nest wherever they can, which could be your house if you happen to leave the door open. They'll also take whatever they can for nesting material, which could include your beach blanket or a sun hat, as well as the usual sticks, stones, and leaves. Now, we don't have any baby penguins here at Caldwell Zoo, and that's because the age of our penguins is, they're still a little too young. Sexual maturity starts around age 5. Most of these guys will be turning 5 this year. Our youngest is actually a year behind everybody else and will be 4. So hopefully in a couple of years, once these guys are sexually mature, we can participate in the breeding program for the black-footed penguin and have some baby penguins. Now what that means for any females that do lay eggs right now is that those eggs are infertile. Nothing was ever growing in that egg, nothing ever will grow in the egg. I did mention a breeding program for the black-footed penguin, and it's because out in the wild, these guys are listed as vulnerable and are actually being considered for the endangered species list along with several other species of penguins. And a huge concern for these guys is water pollution. Things like oil spills not only harm the penguins, but also their food source as well. So it's a double whammy, and again, not only just for penguins, but for all other animals that depend so heavily on the water. Here at Caldwell Zoo, we feed these guys 2 types of fish. Most of these guys prefer a capelin. Occasionally, we'll get them to eat a herring. This is actually a small herring. We fed them much larger than this. Out in the wild, these guys will eat fish, mollusks, small squid species, and other marine animals. And since these guys can only hunt in the water, they're made for swimming in the water. These guys can swim up to 22 miles per hour to go after their food source. So they're very streamlined in their body shape, almost like mini torpedoes. And their wings look and act like flippers, but they still are technically wings. Because of their wing structure, penguins cannot fly. However, they're certainly made for maneuvering really well through the water. We feed these guys twice a day, once in the morning, again here at 2 o'clock, and they get to eat as much as they want. So you've noticed that some of our penguins are sitting over there, they're telling me, I'm done, I'm full, I don't want any more. These guys over here are thinking about it. They know they get fed pretty much right here, so if they're not hungry, they'll just sit here and ignore me. But these guys can eat up to 3 pounds of fish each per day. So with 9 penguins in here, that would be 27 pounds of fish we could be going through. Thankfully for us, we don't go through quite as much. We're somewhere around 10 to 15 pounds of fish a day. But that's still a lot of fish. Looks like these guys are slowing down. Brenda and I are going to stay in here for just a couple more minutes, make sure they've had their fill. If you have any questions, stick around. I'll be out to answer those for you as soon as I'm done in here. And we hope you enjoyed seeing our penguins, and thank you for visiting Caldwell Zoo.